morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. We're really excited to join you here today. As always, we are presented by Emergent Financial Services. We are powered by Cristel Noel State Farm. Cristel just had her birthday yesterday, so very happy birthday,
Cristel.
to Cristel Noel, owner of Cristel Noel State Farm, our major sponsor. And then, of course, we are partnering with For Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, Virginia.
You're getting good at
So I'm remembering premier every time, which is a real improvement here. So we're really excited to have you join us today on the I Love CVille Network. We've got a great lineup for you today. We're going to be joined at 10:30 by phone by Carla Chavez-Mayorga. She's the owner of Azul Family Dentistry. And then at 10:50, we're going to be joined in studio by Jennifer Lehman, CPA. She is the partner and CEO of Hantzmon Wiebel here in Charlottesville. So we're really some great expertise for us today.
Actually, before we start, I mean, just you and I chatting about what's happened. So I learned that one of our viewers, or listeners, depending on how you look at it, Leah, remember Leah?
Rosalia Crodaro from Miami.
Yeah, so she actually owned a apartment in that building, right? Absolutely. So I want to, wish her and actually, she's okay. She was very lucky that she was not in the building at the time, but I know that her and her husband are distraught about, all the things that they lost and friends that they've lost. So, my heart, our hearts, and best wishes go out to them because I know that this is a devastating moment for them, and not just from a financial point of view, but really from just like I said, it's a dream. I'm sure it's a dream to be able to be right there by the beach, and I'm sure they've had great times and great friends, and now it's a sad moment for them. But so
our
hearts go out.
Our hearts go out to you guys.
Yeah. That was tough stuff.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so the other thing was, I happened to be reading. I make it sound like I don't read often, but I happened to be reading the other day. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
And there were two topics that I thought were interesting. One was the consumer, right? Mm-hmm. What the consumer's doing these days, and the other one is the markets, in the sense that the markets have been very quiet. Quiet in the sense that if you take a look at the last 7 months, we haven't seen a down, at least a 5% correction, right, in 7 months. Mm-hmm. That's very rare. I mean, usually every 3 months you have something. So it's been interesting. And then there's another dichotomy that I want to talk about. But from the consumer point of view, I thought what was interesting is that the consumer has shifted, right, from buying product to buying services. And the reason is that because of the fact that things have gone up so much, right? And if you think of one of the consumers, is home builders. Home builders, they just dropped because they realized we just can't afford to build homes anymore.
Absolutely.
And because of that, right, lumber prices have gone down 45%. So I always say,
a response.
Yeah, so I always say let the markets, right, do the work that the markets are supposed to do. Meaning the markets, the free markets, people, right? So people are smart. Consumer is smart. Whatever the consumer is doing, we're not talking about one person. We're talking a bunch of people, right? So the consumer has the knowledge to say, if this is too expensive, I don't really need to do this at this point in time, right?
Exactly.
In other words, I don't need to buy this today.
People are clever. They adjust their behavior to respond to market conditions. So when something becomes more expensive, if you don't absolutely need it, you say, well, I'll forego it.
That's right. I always look at it as a water flow, right? I mean, water flows to the lowest level, right? Mm-hmm. You can't change that. That's the way it happens. That's nature. And I think consumers are like that, right? They find themselves in a situation where if I want to buy X and X is up 100% in value, mm-hmm. but I also wanted to buy Y, and Y is flat, then I'm going to put my money in Y right now and wait, right? And I think that's what's been happening. And I think the consumer themselves will force prices to settle down or decline, mm-hmm. right, over time. And the other thing is we're certainly beginning to see a lot more states open up. We're seeing that the market, the work market is beginning to generate interest again. And I think over time, the supply chain, which has been the issue, right, as opposed to the demand side, the supply chain, and you talked about this a million mm-hmm. times, the supply chain will then begin to, rise to the level that was there before the pandemic, and I think prices will settle in a little. Now, am I saying that there's be no inflation whatsoever? No, and nobody really knows that for
But
sure.
it's no inflation and the inflation that we've been seeing, this type of level, are two different things.
Exactly.
And we could return to an inflationary period where you're talking 1 to 2%. That's very different from the 4 to 5% that we've been seeing.
Right. And I mean, we've never gone through this before where the government shuts down an economy, right? And because they shut down the economy, prices
plummeted last year.
Right? And so then they come up huge. And of course, in addition to that, you know, the supply's not quite there. And I mean, look at what I read about in Colorado, where there was a number of gas stations that didn't have gas. It's not that there isn't any gas, there's no truckers, right? So we know there's truckers out there, so it's a matter of, you know, how do we get those people back driving the trucks that bring the gasoline to the gas station?
Yeah, so
right?
it's supply chain getting back into order. I mean, when you have something that disruptive to an economy, it's not as though you come back and say, all right, we're open again, and everyone just, you know, pops in back where they were magically and starts doing the exact same thing they were doing before the pandemic, and the exact same job, and the exact same pace. It takes time for people to eventually filter back in. And sometimes people have changed industries. So there may be truckers that are no longer in trucking, and other people who are potential truckers, but they haven't yet gone into that industry because they were in another industry, and now they're changing jobs.
And you never know. I mean, you know, again, there's a situation where maybe you're a trucker for a gasoline company, and you know there's somebody else saying, "Hey, I'll pay you twice what you're earning now if you bring my supply to the people that need it." And you say, "I'm done here," right? So now they got to go out and find, obviously, a trucker for the gasoline company. So all that happens when the supply of truckers is small, because there are people out there that maybe just aren't ready to go back to the workforce for whatever reason, right? The other thing was, so as I mentioned, the S&P 500, right? The S&P 500 hasn't had, well, it's just been going up slowly, methodically. We haven't seen any correction whatsoever, and I think for the last 7 months we haven't had a correction greater than 5% whatsoever, right? And which is historically, that's how it's usually every 3 months. So you say to yourself, what's going on? But when you dig deep down, you realize there's a lot going on in the markets. And one of the areas, and I think we talked about this a few shows back, one of the areas that is truly dynamically changing is the difference between value stocks and growth stocks. And one thing about value stocks is most of them pay dividends, right? And they pay dividends in the 2-3%. And what we have seen is that because of the fact that, you know, bonds aren't paying anything, right, in the sense of interest, there's an enormous amount of people say, how do I get 2%, 3%? So they're going to stocks, they're going to value stocks. Now, the correlation, and that's a big word that I always use, and I don't even know what it means. No. So the correlation between value stocks and growth stocks, right, is about 0.41. Now, a correlation of 1, right, means that they both move perfectly in sync. In other words, if one goes up 10%, the other one goes up 10%, right? A 0.4 means that if one goes up 10%, the other one's not going to go up 10%. It's going to either go less. It's going to move. It's just not going to be a perfect correlation.
In fact, that's a pretty weak correlation.
Absolutely.
As far as correlation. Well, usually anything under 0.7, just to give you all an example, anything under 0.7 is considered weak, meaning there's no guarantee that if one goes up, the other one's going to go up. It could go up slightly, it could go down slightly. There's not a lot of strength to that number. So
I looked it up, and right, so before the last 6 months, the correlation between growth stocks and value stocks for a 5-year period was about 0.95, which means that pretty much grew, strong. Right? Right now it's 0.41. So what's happened is exactly that. I mean, people that typically go from stocks to bonds and say, wow, I've got all these earnings, I've earned all this money in the stock market, I need to protect it in one way or another and go into bonds, are not going into bonds because, again, bonds yields are so low. It's like, what am I doing?
Why would I switch to earn 0.9%?
Yeah, not that it would be a wrong strategy, because there's nothing wrong with being in cash, right, if you want to protect your assets. But they don't really look to protect their assets. Say, how do I earn something in this asset class, right? And there's nothing to earn there. So they're moving into value stocks. They go out of their tech stocks, growth stocks, small cap stocks, and say, I took my risk, I want to protect it. they go into value stocks, which are the larger stocks that pay dividends, right? And
those are the big ones. Your Coca-Cola's, Johnson & Johnson. Those
exactly,
we name all the time.
Exactly, the names that are
Costco,
they're household names. That's
household
right.
names.
Yeah, Home Depot, things
As
like
they
that.
say.
So I thought that was really interesting from the perspective of, how we always talk about a diversified portfolio, and if you look at the S&P 500, the S&P 500 already is a diversified index because it has growth and has value, right? And obviously there are tons of indices out there that have a little bit of both. But the bottom line is, unless you are truly gifted and can tell the future in such a way that most other people can't. And I mean, there are people that we do this for a living, thinking about what's happening tomorrow,
exactly.
right?
You always
how
think about what's happening.
How do we make sure we maneuver the funds in one way or another to take advantage of what we're seeing happening? However, as a normal retail person, right, you got your own job. You're not going to sit there 8 hours a day reading and thinking about what's happening tomorrow in the markets. A diversified portfolio is the best thing because, I think value this year is up about 17. Growth is up about 12, 13%. So, that way. It's only 4%, right? But if you have both,
half a year.
If you have both, right, then you didn't have 17 or 13. You have 15, right? 15, and that's a pretty good number, right? So that's the whole point of diversification. There will be sectors of the market that haven't done well, sectors of the market that have done very well, and you're in both, right? And overall, that bundle portfolio does very well over time.
And you save yourself the danger of chasing the returns.
Right.
I think sometimes when you're trying to pick a winning sector all the time, you're saying I'm not diversified. I'm gonna go for value when I think value's gonna go up. I'm gonna go for growth when I think growth's gonna go up. There's a temptation, I think, sometimes, and they've studied this, that people will chase returns. In other words, growth has a great year. Everybody goes and buys growth. Well, now what happens? Growth. Like last year, growth had a great year.
Yes.
If you went into growth at the end of last year, you're just kicking yourself saying, if I had been in value, I would have had more, a greater return. Whereas, who knows, maybe at the end of this year, a lot of people will say, well, value was the one that really won in 2021, so I'm going to go into value. But then you've already missed. By the time you're seeing the dichotomy of returns, by the time you see that value is up 17%, and growth is only up 12, it's too late to go into value.
Exactly.
Because now by the time you go into value, growth might as well do better than value.
There's a flip.
There's no knowing. There's a constant flipping. And one of the greatest dangers that they find that people do is chase returns.
Oh, yes.
Right? Because then you're always behind the eight ball. You're always lagging the returns of the market.
That's right.
Because you're basically always going into the sector that already had its rise.
Exactly.
And so diversification helps you avoid that process.
That's right.
Because yes, you're never going to get the 17, but you're also not going to get the 12.
That's right.
You're always going to get that 15 because you have access to both sides of the market.
That's right, and we talked about asset allocation too. I mean, if you follow that type of where you say I want to have X% in growth and Y% in value and then some small cap, etc. If you have a formula in mind and say I want to have these percentages across the board, the beauty of it is as the markets change and you look at it and say, wait a minute, so this sector is now down and this one's up, so I need to shift out of this one into this one. And that's what you're doing. You're really selling the ones that have done very well, buying the ones that haven't done very well. And over time, that's a great strategy. It might not work one particular year or 2 years, but over time, that's what happens. And we have the beautiful color chart in our office that is just mind-boggling, all the colors, how they change.
The chart of multi-colors,
exactly,
which basically shows all the different asset classes, your China, India, emerging markets, you've got your U.S. big stocks, your U.S. small caps.
U.S. Treasuries.
U.S. Treasuries. Well, Treasuries are always like...
Once in a while, they're up there.
If you notice, the Treasuries, they move because they only go to the top when everything else is negative.
Exactly.
When you have a recession,
that's right.
Treasuries is like the best investment this year was Treasuries. Like, what did Treasuries earn? Like 4%. You're like, why is that the best? Well, because everything else is negative.
Yeah. You don't want to chase that one, that's for sure, right?
That one, you don't want to be chasing that one. So it's always smart to keep in mind why you diversify.
Right.
Because, I mean, we talk this mantra all the time and talk about diversification. And it sounds, I mean, it's not the most exciting thing in the world. I mean, it doesn't promise that, pick this stock and you will get double your money in 12 months, right? But it's the slow and steady wins the race of the retirement portfolio.
That's right.
What do you have to be
Saving
thinking about?
for the future, whether it be a house, a car, retirement, whatever, it's the way to go, right?
And then you take like you said, like we always say, take the money that you would have taken to the casino at Atlantic City, and with that you can invest in your one or
That's
two
right.
stocks.
Exactly.
And because then if you lose it, it's like, okay, the stock market got it instead of Atlantic City. It's not really
That's right.
much of a
And
difference.
listen, in today's world, it's all more or less the same because I remember when we were in Vegas, and this is years ago, so who knows what's there today because I'm not much of a gambler, but instead of pulling the lever, right, where I always wanted to do it, I pulled the lever, I go there's no levers. It's a little button, I mean, within seconds, I've lost $10. At door no, boom, 10 seconds. I said, wow. In about 15 seconds, I've lost about $150. That's enough fun for the day. You know what I mean? So the stock market, that's even better.
That is such an Xavier story. I can just imagine you like getting the excitement saying, the only reason I want to go gamble is so I can pull the lever and see the stuff
that's
roll."
all.
And
At the
instead
old
you
days,
get there,
where just the thing would flip and you see the bananas or the apples or the cherries.
And
Now-
the disappointment that it's just a button.
Button, yeah.
Poof, your money's gone.
And somebody back there's laughing at you.
That owns the
right.
house. It's like, got him that time. Oh. But definitely, that's why I think you just keep it in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
What your goal is, and then pursue it in a way that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And so now we're ready. I think we're ready to go to our
Absolutely, yeah.
first guest. We have. This is the beauty of
This is better than going to a dentist because you're not there actually. You're just talking to them.
Yeah, you don't have to hold your
That's
mouth
right.
open.
Exactly.
while,
Open wide.
It's not a one-sided conversation. So I would go ahead and this is the beauty of technology, that we had a little Skype connection thing, so we're going to try phone.
Phone.
This time we're going to try Carla
Thank
on
God we
phone.
have those things.
That's why we have the old-fashioned phone call method. So we're going to see if it works. We're going to give it a shot.
All right.
And see if we can connect to Carla.
Well, it's got to work. Jerry does that all the time with Skype.
Via
Where he
phones,
gets
we're
you
gonna-
on.
We're going to go for Carla Chavez-Mayorga. She's the owner of Azul Family Dentistry.
Azul, I love that name. Azul.
Azul, which
Yeah,
means blue.
yeah.
In
Yeah.
Spanish.
But it sounds better, Azul.
Hello?
Carla, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Alex. I'm here with Xavier. Xavier, we're really excited to have you on the show with us today.
Hello, Carla.
Yeah. Thank you for the invite.
Oh, of course, of course. So how are you doing this morning?
Pretty busy, as you can tell.
we guessed. We were talking with your assistant earlier. We're setting it up, and we said that's the life of a dentist. Always busy.
Any emergencies
It
this
is.
morning?
But I guess it's a blessing at this time, so I think that's a good thing to be busy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for people who don't know you, what inspired you to become a dentist and then to open up your own practice? And you can go for either of those questions with us.
So I'm from Nicaragua, Central America, so always are surrounded by doctors. My mom, she's an architect, and she was building a couple of health centers back home.
Wow.
My brother, he's a OBGYN also back home. So dentistry was just something that I was attracted because, of course, I had bad teeth when I was little. And then I want to become my hero, the one that saved my teeth, and he did not pull them. He was not aggressive. Then I went to school back home in Nicaragua, and I moved here because I got married. My husband, Harvey, he was living in Miami, so we decided that here was going to be a good option for both of us and to build a family and everything. So I moved here, did a residency program in Ohio, then North Carolina, and I was looking into faculty position because when I was in North Carolina, it happened that I was the chief resident and I was helping the other residents, the junior residents. And then UVA came up and I took the position over there, which I was there for 3 years. I'm still part-time over there. And then I moved here to Afton to do private practice. I started January full-time. I've been very busy, thank God. It was kind of crazy, the start, because we were in the middle of the pandemic. Actually, for both of us, my husband and I, he was changing locations. He has Wajito, the Miami
Juanito's
restaurant.
Miami Eatery, yep.
Yeah.
Big
so
fans. We are big
changing
fans
locations.
here.
Yeah, I know you're good customers. So he was changing locations. I was going through a loan for the practice. So it's kind of crazy. It was a crazy time for a lot of people, but I guess it was a door that opened for both of us. So and it's been working pretty good. Kind of crazy adventure roller coaster, but we're doing pretty good, trying to keep ourselves busy and also try to spend time with our family. We have 2 children. And so hopefully we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I think we've been doing great so far, both of us.
That's awesome. That's amazing. What would you, as someone, so you started, obviously you were working at UVA. What would you say is different about going into your own practice and being an entrepreneur in addition to just a professional?
Yeah, so at UVA was different because I was in charge not only for my private patients, but also for hospital patients and residents. So they're dentists, they just graduate and they just want to pursue more hospital dentistry. So it's a little bit more challenging for them because they see medically compromised patients, a lot of difficult cases. So the transition was a big transition because I moved into private practice where I'm pretty much only see healthy people, the majority of them, and I have my own schedule, which is great. I think it's great. I don't work on Fridays.
Nice. The perks of being an entrepreneur, the flexibility.
Yeah, well, I should take that back because I do work on Fridays, but I only do paperwork because it's a lot of work. It's not easy. It's been 6 months and it's been a lot of work, but I feel that I'm getting to that point that I can breathe one Friday and say, you know what, today I'm just going to cuddle with my kids and not going to the office to do paperwork. So a big change from UVA also because I was taking calls once a month with the residents and just supervising and all that. So it was more hours of work. It was very like an adventure, a different adventure, but I love it. I still work over there. I'm still part-time with UVA. I mean, it's hard to let it go because it's a passion that I have to. Teaching is another passion that I have, so it's hard to let it go. But I mean, it's nice to have your own schedule, having a day off, and just say, you know what, I'm not going to go to work today. So I think that's nice.
It is.
No,
I think people do sometimes forget, just like you said about Fridays, that you have the paperwork. Is that when you're an entrepreneur, you have to do the little things that when you work for someone else, you don't have to think about. But as someone who owns your own business, you've got that extra paperwork, not just the dentist practice, but the other things that go into making your business run.
I know. I'm always drilling, putting shelves, changing stuff, fixing stuff, putting plants outside. I mean, I'm always doing something. It's not just dentistry in here. It's a little bit of everything. I'm like everything in here. My staff, they are young girls, and when they started with me, they didn't know much about dentistry, so it was a learning opportunity for them to start with me because I was happy to help them and teach them everything that I knew about all the positions because when I moved here to the States, I started as a dental assistant in Miami, so I pretty much know all the positions. I was helping at the clinic with front desk as well, so I do not know a lot of it, but I know couple of things, so I could help them to kind of like to train them. I was able to help them pursue something else because they were just out of high school. So I think that was a great opportunity for them as well.
That's nice that you were able to teach them and maybe inspire them too with what you're doing.
I hope so. I told one of them that I hope that she's the one that is going to buy my practice when I retire. So
there you go.
That will be nice.
The succession plan.
So I was just curious I don't know if you can hear me well. So can you hear me well?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I was curious because from a dentistry point of view, how do you get customers? In other words, you started your business, and how did anybody even know that you were a dentist? How did you advertise? Did you already have a following? How did that happen?
So the previous doctor that was here, I took over her patients. Some of them, they do move closer because I'm in Afton. Some of them, they were coming from Charlottesville just because she was their dentist for so many years, but I mean, completely understand. And then other things that I've been doing, I just posted an ad on the Nelson guidebook not too long ago, so it should be coming up soon. I'm not very good with marketing, I'm going to be honest, because I've been busy in other things, but I'm still working on the website, Google. They usually find me on Google, and I do take insurance, so insurance sometimes is a good referral for me. I'm pretty much the only one in Afton, the area of Afton, and also I the only one in this area that takes Medicaid, so I've been seeing a lot of Medicaid patients so far.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah. No, I understand it. The marketing, I think, for every entrepreneur is that challenge area, because you have to even for ourselves, like, we have to work at it and learn new ways to connect with people and reach out to them.
Yeah, it is challenging because it's not something that I learn. It's just something that I have to I have to advertise. How do I do it? What should I post, or how do I do it? How do I reach to this certain patient population that I want to reach out? So it's really challenging. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, it is. Yeah.
Very
I mean,
true.
I think that's, when you have your own business, there are those that are very creative minded, so they know everything about marketing but know nothing about how to run a business, and then there's those that know how to run a business that know nothing about marketing. So it's a challenge to really blend both of those in a perfect way to get where you're going.
Yeah, actually, word to mouth has been really great for me. I start seeing a lot of Hispanic patients because I'm fluent in Spanish, so word to mouth, I went to this Latino market and they're like, oh, you're not working at UVA anymore, do you have your practice? So I told them, and they've been sending me patients, and then they just talk to other people and they're like, oh, she speaks Spanish. So that has been a really good marketing, because they know for firsthand that I'm a good dentist and I speak Spanish, so they like that.
Exactly.
Awesome.
No, absolutely.
Yep. So I mean, speaking of that, being obviously you're a Latina entrepreneur as well as being a dental professional. So what advice would you have for any Latinos or Latinas that are interested in pursuing a medical or a dental profession?
I think it's gonna sound very cliche, but the sky is the limit. I mean, I started. When I was a student, I never thought about moving here to the United States. I actually thought about it many times, because I was working in Nicaragua. I had a job, a stable job. I was working for an office and everything. And then I moved here and pretty much start from as a dental assistant. So from the bottom, starting learning every single position, and then never giving up. I had to do my boards. I had to start all over. I didn't go back to school, but I had to do residency. So I did 2 years of residency away from my family, away from my husband. But it was worth every single minute right now that I get to enjoy with my kids, with my dogs, my husband, my family. It's worth every second of it. So it's sky is the limit, and I think not giving up is the best advice that I can give.
That is awesome.
We
That's
hear
an
that so
inspiring
much.
story,
Yeah.
actually, to start. Because you basically started in some ways from scratch. Like, you started anew, working your way up, and then putting a lot of time and effort in to get to, like you said, where you are as a professional and able to be an entrepreneur and get that blend of family and business that it affords.
Yeah, and now I'm here. I have my own business. I mean, I put my plans that they die 2 days after I do that, but I keep on going. I keep on planting and doing a lot of things in here in my office. So, it's great. It's great to have my own place.
It's Virginia, so I feel
Absolutely,
like
yeah. I'm well aware of that.
A lot of them
We're
die
gonna
before
blame
you
it on
get
the
the one
weather.
that lives. We'll just blame it on Virginia weather.
I'm just gonna blame it on the weather.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Carla, before we let you go, what are the best ways for people to find you, and what is unique about, you think, Azul Family Dentistry that they should give you all a call?
So right now, our website is under construction, but they can find the information on Google, Azul Family Dentistry, Azul like the color, like blue. Not only the place is a very family oriented place. We're a small little house, not a building, commercial building. We treat you as a family. We care about you. We are not going to recommend anything that you don't need, because we care about you. We care about your concerns. And education. We love to educate our patients of how to prevent things to get worse, or how to prevent things to happen. When I hear my patients saying, they didn't do my cleaning because I need a deep cleaning, I said, well, you have to start from something, so we'll do something today. I think that education and prevention are the keys for everything. So that's where you're going to find with us. The girls are amazing. They're just really, really great, the three of them. And we're just like a small little family in a small blue house.
That's
and
awesome.
we have the brewery next door, so you can go and eat or have a beer.
That is true. That is very good.
Is that before or after they go to the dentist?
Oh, before.
You can sit outside of our swing and then just enjoy the view, because it's just great. It's just an amazing view.
It is a beautiful spot. I have passed by there, and you have definitely a beautiful location and a beautiful practice.
Yes, thank you.
So yeah, thank you so much, Carla, for joining us.
Thank you,
It's been
Carla.
a lot of fun to have you on, and one of these days we'll aim to have you and Harvey both on our show at the same time.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Thank you.
You take care.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you.
So actually what you can do is you go next door, you have a few beers, because instead of anesthesia, you just get beers, right? You go to the dentist, they drill whatever they got to drill, then you go outside and have the sandwich. I think that's a great deal.
I think you gotta probably do the beer first.
That's what I'm
eat
saying.
first, then
Why?
you get your teeth cleaned afterwards.
Eh,
And it's like you.
the idea is the anesthesia. You want the drill.
Oh, you want the anesthesia.
I don't want them drilling a hole without the anesthesia, and I don't want them anesthesia.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sure the beer is gonna cover.
You
the
drink
anesthesia
enough.
that you need if they're
you
drilling a hole in your teeth.
You got to do the couple of
I
pint
think you
thing,
might
you
need
know.
a little. I think you might need a little more than that. So, from one professional expert
That's right.
to
another.
another, we're really excited to be joined by Jennifer Lehman.
I need my pen because there's
CPA.
going to be a lot of tips here, right?
She is some great tips here today. She is a partner and CEO at Hantzmon Wiebel here in Charlottesville. And Jennifer, really excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
It's a
Hi,
pleasure.
Jennifer.
We've been looking forward to this one.
Absolutely.
Because, just being in the financial business, right, we always run into, like, people with tax questions. And so it's always like, okay, we have some idea with the retirement accounts, how things work, but if you have any, like, major questions, talk to an expert.
That's right. Exactly.
To do that part.
Yes, but I'm
For
getting
sure.
really scared. I think maybe I should have brought a tax partner with me. So I am not a tax partner. So let's do that caveat to begin with. So I am an
It doesn't
audit
matter.
partner. So let's get that on the ground floor. Okay, go
No,
ahead.
but we're here to talk about anything just about you and the company as a whole. So, like, so for those, that's a perfect way to segue there, because what led you down the path? Like, tell us a little about yourself, of how you became a CPA, and now CEO of a CPA firm.
Okay, so it's actually kind of a funny story because I went to school to be a nurse.
Oh, wow.
So I actually am a first generation college student. So when you go in like that, no really foundation or guidance. And so what can a first generation female do? Become a nurse. So I had all the support of my family to become a nurse, and my dad really wanted me to become a nurse because I could support myself, and it was great. And my dad was great. I hated it. I hated it. So there's not many CPAs that have anatomy and physiology as electives. I have anatomy and physiology as electives, and so I needed to get out of that. So after 2 years of prereqs, I got out of the nursing program at JMU and started into accounting, and it was definitely a better fit. So it took me a little bit longer to get out of school, so I worked full-time in an engineering firm, actually, and I was able to really build their books up from paper into an electronic system, and really enjoyed it. And then at the end of my college career, I was like, wait, what am I doing? What am I going to do with this? And so that was in Harrisonburg, and I had kind of, because I was there a little bit longer, had taken a non-traditional path. So I had a house and I had a husband, and it was not normal when you graduate like that. So I stuck a pin in Harrisonburg and did a 60-mile radius and started interviewing for public accounting positions, and landed here in Charlottesville. And really, the firm Hantzmon Wiebel, when I interviewed there, I actually calculated how much less Hantzmon Wiebel could offer me, and I would still take it over some of the firms that had offered me positions closer, because they were just so kind and great. So that's how I started here in Charlottesville 25 years ago.
Wow.
So that's how I got into the profession here. And I really grew up in Hantzmon Wiebel in audit. And then the way that we work there is that you get an exposure to all aspects. So not only do I do audits, but I do tax. So I do have some exposure, so I can answer some tax questions, not a lot of them. So that's the answer.
So that's interesting. So when you went in there, basically they teach you experience in all different areas of the tax world. Because I know what
Yes,
people think of most is just do my personal taxes.
Right.
But there's so much that's
Of course.
involved in the world.
So if you think about the businesses in the Charlottesville area, right? So we have a little bit of everything here, right? So it's really important to be able to serve our community and serve our community well. So if I serve a business, I'm really serving the business owner. And I need to be able to answer the questions that are relevant to the business and to the business owner.
Right.
How is it going to affect the business and how is it going to affect the business owner? So it's important to be able to do both.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, that- and
we see that all the
we
time.
see that all the time,
People
absolutely.
come in,
Yeah.
and it's like, I need you to deal with my personal finances, and then we'll sit there and say, do you have a business? Because that changes things.
Right,
Because
right.
now what affects the business affects you, what affects you affects the business.
Exactly
So to know
right.
both is so important and valuable.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
That's awesome. So, I mean, given that experience, because one of the things I really wanted to ask that just came to me as soon as Nick, our social media ninja, connected us with you, is just given your experience, what would you say is either things that you've seen from a business owner perspective, things that people either miss in terms of thinking about taxes as a business owner, or things that the business owners that are really savvy that you've worked with have in mind? So you can go either way. You can do things that people don't think about that you think are important, or things that people like, the really successful ones nail this, and they're always on top of certain
I feel like this is a trap, right? I mean, I look at her eyes, says, this is a trap. Wait a minute.
It's a trick question.
It is a trick question. It is a trap. I think, so this is not going to be your tax answer, though. I'm going to tell you.
Anything you want to know?
It's about, I'm going to tell you that probably my answer is going to be making your decision about today and not thinking about the future. Like, honestly, it's about not taking the whole picture into perspective. It's about, because I think that there is, and this is, by the way, this is where the advisory part of our practice comes into play. It's not only about this one single day or this one single transaction. It's about what you're doing, how it plays into everything, how it affects everything. So remember when I said it's not about how it affects a business, but how it affects a business owner. It's not about how it affects a business owner, but how it affects the entire team, how it affects everybody's business around it. So I think that that's really it. Like when you have the narrow perspective, I use a lot of, I call them anchors or like little analogies or whatever, and I use the flashlight a lot. So if you take the flashlight and you only shine it on the little teeny tiny spot, you only see that little teeny tiny spot, but if you hold the flashlight up really high, you can see a lot, right? And it's really important to hold that flashlight really high so you can see the big picture of everything. So I think that for me personally, that's what I would say, is that you really have to hold that flashlight high and look all the way around at every aspect of the transaction or what it's affecting all the way around. So I know that's not a technical answer, but that's where I'm going to land.
But it makes total sense.
Exactly.
I feel like that applies not just on a tax free, but on any kind of aspect of your business. There is a temptation to be like, well, this decision looks really good today, and this will like generate this kind of revenue and do this for me. But then you look at it, if you were to zoom back and say, well, do I really want to go into that line of business? What happens 2 years from now? What are the repercussions of making this decision, which looks great today, but maybe if you take a 2-year perspective, it's like, I don't know, maybe that's not the best decision for my business.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Now, would you say that the majority of your clients, would you say that on a percentage basis, what are, companies and do you also do foundations, public company, public like municipalities and things of that sort, and kind of retail? What do you say is the breakup there?
So for our client base, you basically look at anything that's in the Charlottesville market.
Okay.
So think about, there's not very many publicly traded entities in the Charlottesville
Right,
market.
of
So
course.
nothing publicly traded.
Okay.
We personally, our business doesn't work with banks and financial institutions.
Okay.
But anything else, so nonprofit entities, we do a lot of nonprofit work. And then when I say that, we do that both on a volunteer basis and also with those nonprofit entities. We also work with, so when you say small businesses here, they're very small to very large small businesses, the business owners. I think anything and everything that you can see locally. And so in the environment that we've been in, especially in the last 15 months, we've been able to see that you can span really the globe sitting right here. So before that, we are local, statewide, nationally, and internationally, though. So we do span the entire globe.
Wow. That's pretty neat. It's true. I mean, it's been amazing. You realize how far your reach can actually go once you put the tools in place.
That's right. Yeah.
To do it, and you realize,
wow, technology. I mean, has permitted that, right?
Exactly.
That you go places you wouldn't have thought you could go.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, from just like your personal experience side, what would you say are some of the challenges and opportunities of being a CPA, of being in this line of work where you're working with people on so many different levels, but then you're working, like you said, from really small businesses to really large ones?
Change, pace of change, change when it comes to law changes.
Especially the changes we've seen over the last year and a half, where you get the pandemic and you get all these changes as to when you can file your taxes, what you can do in your taxes, what you can't do, and
absolutely. So there were days when there were clients that I would talk to on one day, and the next day I would say, okay, so what I told you yesterday was not true anymore. And it was frustrating because you want to be able to serve your clients and serve them well, and you want to be able to plan well. So being able to educate and train new CPAs coming into the industry, being able to present an opportunity for people who really want to be able to serve clients and serve them well, and so that they can enjoy it and have fun doing it, and be able to, again, be somebody who is of value to your clients is important too. So again, I think that when you're looking at trying to encourage students that are in UVA, JMU, I'm a JMU graduate, so I'm a fan of JMU as well, trying to encourage them to embrace the change and what they're going to have to learn and apply when they get into the field. It's different than when I came out 25 years ago. It's just a lot different. What the CPA exam even looks like is a lot different. It's not the same. You have to apply data analytics to what you're doing now. That's not what you did 25 years ago. So it's definitely a broader spectrum of what you're applying to what you do.
That is interesting.
So when you talk about for example, the CPA exam, right? Is it because of technology that the fact is that, I mean, I guess in the old days, I'm trying to remember when I took my Series 7. I mean, I was permitted to bring a calculator, but it didn't have any functions in there, right? So everything you either had to do on paper. By my suspicion is that obviously they didn't ask me to do any of the, iterative process that a calculator does these days, right? Because you'd be there all day by the time you finish, right? So is that happening also in today's world, where the student is expected to know more because of the fact that he's got that computer with them?
They are expected to do more. So when I took the CPA exam, I took it with paper and pencil also.
Exactly.
Absolutely taking it electronically on the computer now. And there's an evolution of the actual exam. What you need to know and what you're actually applying is completely different. So think about it. If you're a business owner, do you really want to know what happened a year ago, or do you really want to know what happened today, so that you can apply it to how you're going to make the change today to affect what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, because that's more relevant now than it was when we were working five years ago. So it's a whole new world, and we got to be ready.
So many changes happening at that fast pace.
I always think every time somebody new comes into the administration, they always talk about simplifying taxes, right? And this has been happening for the last 50 years, at least from when I can remember. And it never really happens. But I always wondered, is there a point where simplifying taxes would eliminate, tax people? In other words, I mean, it's like, do you ever get nervous and say, if they really do that, I'm out of a job?
So that's an interesting question, and that's one that for 25 years I've been hearing, and 25 years I've been ready for, because here's my take. So I've been doing taxes, by the way, for 25 years, still doing them, and I am ready to be able to serve my clients whichever way it goes, because at the end of the day, the actual tax computation is really not it's how you manage the information and what you do with the information once you get through it. So because really, again, understanding that I'm an auditor and I'm more on the advisory side anyways, it's really how we manage the information once we get through it, and that's really what's important to the business owners and the businesses. So that's where we need to provide the service.
Yeah. And the orders always.
If you took hours and hours, you could go through your own QuickBooks files and say, yeah, here's my audit of my business, but you wouldn't really be getting anything out of it because you'd have no expertise, you'd have no advice, you'd have no one there saying, well, you could do this, have you thought about that? You just come out of it saying, I have an audit on my own, for whatever it's worth, I audited my own books.
Yeah, that's not worth much.
That's not worth much, right? That's worth almost nothing. So
right.
That part, in reality, there's still a value. Just, I mean, even in our industry, there are more and more robo-advisors. So yeah, you could go online and have a machine tell you all the things you can invest all by yourself, but it wouldn't replace a professional.
So it's taking that information and capitalizing on it and then providing the next level, the next steps. And that's
right.
really where we provide value.
Exactly, which makes a lot of sense. So
that's the answer I was looking for.
Well, we knew with that kind of question, like, all right, we know what are some good answers that we've heard.
Right.
And that can really share people with what it means to have a professional work with you, as opposed to being tempted to say, well, if it's simple enough, I can just do it myself. Because it's not really the same.
No, it isn't. It isn't. Right. And a lot of times the audits are also there so that when somebody else comes take a look at you, so can I see, make sure you guys are who you are.
There's a trust factor.
There's a trust factor, and you show them the audit, say, okay. And it can't be audited by me. It's got to be audited by a third party.
Exactly,
right?
By a third
Independent,
exactly. And a third party, obviously, with a good reputation.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah.
Which makes all the difference when someone's looking at it.
Reputation is important too. That's right.
Reputation is very important. So, I mean, before we let you go, two-part question. What would you say is, from just a perspective of people coming in that's unique about Hantzmon Wiebel, and from just your time working there, and unique about working with you, and then how can people find you and get in touch, and if someone's looking for that kind of help, how can they reach you guys?
Sure. So I think, we have, it ranges between, let's call it 95 and 100 of us in one location. So we are able to capitalize on each other's knowledge. So I just told you that it takes a lot, and it takes a lot of knowledge, learning all the time. So I don't have to be an expert in every single area. So when I came and said, okay, I'm not a tax partner, but I get to rely on my tax partners. So that's really important to be able to rely on each other. You can find us up for one. Thank you very much for having us. These types of opportunities are great. We have a great website, hwllp.cpa. The communications administrator that connected us, thank you very much for working with her. We try our best to be connected to all of the nonprofits locally and support and serve them. So we try to be present in our local chambers. So those are the places that you can find us. So marketing is not one of my, I'm a CPA. That's not what we do, right? But we try
You're doing a great job, though. You're doing a great job.
We try to be present, and that's I think is the most important thing for us, is to be present and to really show up where we're supposed to.
And sometimes that is the most powerful. I mean, just talking with Carla before,
that's right.
It's word of mouth. It's people
it
getting
is.
to know
you
and getting to know you on a personal level. And then you build the trust. And then people say, well, now I trust you, whether it's with my teeth or with my taxes.
Yes. Well, word of mouth is already the first trust factor, right? Because if a friend of mine or somebody, a family member says you should go here or there or whatever, that is already, it's like if they like them, if they trust them, then the first level of trust is there, right? And that's fantastic.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This has been
a real
great.
pleasure. It's been a lot of fun.
Great. Thank you
to have you on. Thanks so much.
It is. And, we see that all the time, right? How many times do we see that when people come in and, it's great to be able to, have somebody, a connection where, you can say, if you really need a CPA, here's a great firm, right? Because we see that so many times people come in and go, wow, you guys, you're not thinking, you're thinking very narrowly, you're not thinking wide, and you need to go see somebody that can help you out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that really is, that's the key answer there, because there is that temptation with your question about simplification. It really doesn't matter how simple it is.
That's right.
Right? Because it's not about the calculation. It's about someone looking at your numbers and seeing past the numbers almost in a sense and saying, here's what you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what we do all the time. We look at
I was going to say, you and I
numbers.
see it, and we're not tax people. You and I see it all the time. We say, well, you should be thinking about doing this because from everything we know, you can save on taxes, or you can make more money, and whatever it may be. But we point them in directions, like, go back to your CPA or tax guy and say, should I be doing this? And the answer should be yes, right? And if it's no, then maybe there's something we're missing. But
exactly,
it's
there. It's to see past the numbers. Yeah. And share knowledge and experience. I mean, 25 years of experience.
That goes a long way.
That goes a long way.
Yeah.
You can't replicate that. I mean, even if you had 25 years of experience in your own business, it's not in. Just think about any type of business you would be in. Let's say you're great at making whatever, you're building homes and stuff, right? Well, you may have. Just imagine all the depth of that 25 years of experience, and put it into a professional sphere. They have the same level of
absolutely,
depth.
Yeah.
And so you want to be able to have access to that, even if you sit there and say, well, the calculation is kind of simple, I have to do it myself. Well, it's not about the numbers.
Well, they've seen the challenges before. Some are, it's like you see something and say, I've been there, seen that before, I know what the solution is, right?
Exactly.
And maybe things have changed, but it's a lot easier, right? Than if somebody's brand new out of college, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't see it in my textbook, so I have no idea how to approach this, right? So there's nothing like experience.
Yeah, it can't be replicated. Oh, man, so a very good show today. I learned a lot. I did not know just very interesting paths, too. Just shows you the perseverance, through Carla, through starting over and going all the way up and spending time away from her family to be able to do that. And then Jennifer, nursing and working
That's right.
in an engineering firm, and then going from there and going into accounting. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But it goes to show you that if you put it in there and you have that great mind and that perseverance, look how far you can go.
Yeah. And if it's we talked about there's a dream, right? If you have a dream, you have to pursue that dream, and sometimes that dream takes a long time to get there. But if you pursue it and you struggle sometimes, but if you keep at it, you get there.
You get there eventually. Yeah. Can't give up on the dream.
That's right.
That's for sure. And next week we're going to have another interesting guest. We're going to have Tate Thomas, a local artist.
Oh, okay.
That Nate has connected us with, and perhaps more guests. We'll keep those under wraps until we finalize those, but it should be exciting. We'll go from, I think today was definitely our more scientific.
More professional, right? In that sense. Not that everybody's not professional, but there's the artistic side, and this is
we'll
more professional and
creative.
We'll
do some more creativity side next week. Although my suspicion is that even in any type of entrepreneur professional sphere, you've got to be creative.
Absolutely.
Even you have to have both sides of the brain working.
Yeah, we're becoming more creative.
We're becoming more creative.
That's why we have the ninja, right?
Exactly. That's
creativity.
We have Nick to use his creativity, and we have Michael. Don't want to.
No. That's
don't want to not give Mike the props for the research and the.
I never do that. That's absolutely he does the hard work. That's right.
But otherwise, if we don't do that, we have to throw him a bone on air. Otherwise, if we don't, we'll go back to the office and says, "You only mentioned Nick. All you did was mention Nick." And then it's like, well, okay, Mike, we mentioned him. We threw him a bone. But this is a fun show, and we're looking forward to next week for sure.
And by the way, next week is this weekend is 4th of July, which is a great holiday, right? Because it is Independence Day.
It is Independence Day.
And I think that's so important to remember that. Remember, no taxation without representation. That's very important. That's very important. That's how it started.
Show up in today's show.
So I just want to make sure that people celebrate that.
Exactly.
I know there's the hot dogs and the hamburgers.
Show, the weekend day mentioned that. As a Cuban, we can appreciate a country where you're free.
That's right.
That's how you ended up here. So for sure, it's a special thing. So definitely a happy Independence Day, happy 4th of July to everyone out there.
And happy.
Yeah, be safe. Don't do anything crazy. We have some cousins. We have some people we know that test the limits of that with their.
That's right.
With their fireworks, their homemade fireworks. So we do not advise that.
That's right.
On Today Mañana, we advise you to watch fireworks and don't attempt to light them yourself. Especially if they're on the older side. But thanks so much for joining us, as always. Really appreciate being on the I Love CVille Network set. Thank you, Jerry and Judah. Judah had his work cut out for him today. We went from Skype to phone to in person. We had a lot going on today.
We try to keep him busy. It's a challenge. I mean, he has to keep moving on. I mean,
his job would be
been so easy.
If we didn't
got to make it difficult for him.
Up, We got. He wants boring. Poor Judah. I said we gotta add a new. Sometimes we worked on that in the office. Like, what can we do?
That's right.
Like,
how can we make
spice up Judah's show today?
How can we make it tough on Judah?
What crazy wrinkle can we add?
That's 50% of our time. And then a little research on the side.
Exactly. We research a little bit who's coming on, and we're there like, what do we spice up the show with today? What monkey wrench do we throw into this now? So we really appreciate the way he makes us look good.
Absolutely.
We appreciate Cristel Noel, State Farm, our agent who celebrated her birthday, as we said at the beginning of the show. Just a really great.
Did she tell us how old she was, or that doesn't count?
Cristel is 23.
23.
And she's going to be 23 for as long as I can remember. It's 23. I'm never.
Feliz cumpleaños.
Cristel always looks good. That's
Absolutely.
important. That's what really matters. Cristel always, she never seems to age, so she always looks good, and she always works well with me. She's such a great person to talk to, and just
she's a lot of fun.
The awards keep coming in, and the team she works with just grows and is a really cool team. We've had at least one on, and so hopefully we'll have some more.
We will
on our show. So thanks to Cristel Noel, State Farm agent, our powering sponsor. Thanks to Emergent Financial Services, our main one. Thanks to For Adelante, the premier Latino networking event here in Charlottesville. And of course, thank you to our audience. We hope you have a wonderful 4th of July, a wonderful Independence Day. And until next week, we will see you. Hasta mañana.